InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Linda Kroll. Welcome, Linda.
Thanks, Jay. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, it's been a while since I interviewed you, but I was looking online. You really have evolved and grown since we've last spoke.
Thank you.
Let me tell the audience a little bit about your background. Linda's a therapist, a mediator, an attorney, and a Dr. Deepak Chopra certified Vedic master. She has helped thousands of individuals and couples learn how to communicate compassionately to create and transform loving relationships. She also offers compassionate meditation to foster a self-led divorce, which you're going to explain later on, and bring a new beginning to a restructured family. Linda, tell the audience what you mean when you say love is the answer, starts with loving yourself.
Well, I think that's kind of what I hope to bring to everybody that I connect with, that the more compassionate and loving they are with themselves, the more compassionate and loving they're going to be with the people in their lives.
Okay, so what are some of the ways that we can express love for ourselves?
Well, compassionate communication is what I'm teaching, and it's learning how to let go of the burdens from your past, to let go of the limiting beliefs that you've kept from your past, to connect to your spiritual source, whatever that is for you, and to relate from your heart, from your highest and best self. So if you do that, you're going to be more compassionate.
And what are some of the signs that we love ourselves?
Well, that inner voice in our head that says we should be different, or we're not perfect, or that judges us, or that judges other people, that when our bodies are tense, when our mind is racing, we're usually listening to our inner critics rather than really coming from our true nature.
Yeah, so it's unconditional love for ourselves, meaning we love ourselves in spite of our flaws, our imperfections.
Right, and what we see as flaws and imperfections are sometimes burdens from the past, things that we learned along the way. And when we really recognize that we're more than just our minds, we're a body, mind, and spirit, then we come from a much more loving, higher self way of looking at ourselves.
Now, would you agree that the body has a form of intelligence and
Yes,
communicates?
Absolutely.
And I guess it communicates via our feelings.
Yes.
You want to say a few words on that, because love is a feeling as well as a thought.
Right. I think that when we're born, I think everybody's born as this light. We come in, we incarnate, we're a baby, and we're pure. And then things happen that cover our light. So our parents, our teachers, our friends, our siblings, and we look down, we don't see that light anymore. And what we do as we grow up is we have feelings as a child, whether we're hurt or sad or angry or vulnerable, and we don't want to feel that. So we push it aside. And usually we push it into our bodies somewhere. And instead of staying in our bodies with the pain, we go into our minds and we figure out how we're going to manage those feelings. So we learn how to be nice or pleasing or caretaking or hardworking, but we're not coming from what I'm calling a self, a higher self. And then when we can't manage, we go to extreme behaviors and we act out in ways to numb us. But all the while, those feelings are still held in the body. And if we don't turn in the direction of that inner child and really help that child feel loved in the world, even in current time, then it comes out as symptoms, and it comes out in relationship problems.
Well, I got to say, I've never heard a lawyer talk the way you do.
Yeah, I know.
It's wonderful. The only time I ever heard a lawyer come anywhere near close to you was a guest in our show, and he was a holistic attorney.
Thank you.
He practiced family law. So.
Well, I like to say that I cover the left brain to the right brain, because you mentioned compassion, that I teach compassionate meditation. I do teach meditation, but I also do compassionate mediation. So from the left to the right, we kind of cover the full spectrum. Yeah.
Well, can you talk a little bit about compassionate meditation and compassionate mediation.
Yes, well,
and I would assume the two are very interrelated.
Well, you don't have to meditate to do compassionate mediation. So the meditation is what I learned at the Chopra Center. So I learned how to teach primordial sound meditation at the Chopra Center, which is a mantra-based meditation to get us out of our minds and get to that stillness within, that still, silent self within.
Now, how long were you at the Chopra Center? In California?
It was in California.
Yeah.
I like to say that I became a meditation teacher, then a yoga teacher, then an Ayurveda perfect health teacher. And I like to say that I got my Medicare card in May and I got my Vedic master in June. So you're never too old to learn something new. So I did that a couple years ago.
Now, did you study with Dr. Chopra himself?
Dr. Chopra, David Simon, David G., Claire Diab, and all the wonderful teachers that were there. So it was a terrific experience. I recommend it to everybody. They have classes ongoing.
That's super. So you're going to explain compassionate meditation?
Well, meditation is meditation. Compassionate mediation is what I'm teaching, but meditation is just meditation. You can learn how to meditate just by tuning into your breath. You can learn how to meditate by a mantra. It's just a way of recognizing that we have thoughts, but we're not our thoughts. And what meditation does is allow you to disconnect from the 60,000 thoughts you have a day and get to that stillness within that's really who you are, your spirit, your soul, and that's how I help people relate to themselves and each other.
Now, just the term, to tell you how the term compassionate meditation strikes me,
yes,
as actually just feeling compassion for someone in particular or society at large, just feeling the unity
absolutely,
and empathy, which we're going to talk about later.
Yes.
All right, so to talk a little bit about this compassionate mediation.
Mediation. All right, well, when I was describing the parts that we have, the exiles, manners, and extreme parts, I didn't talk about the self. And when we're in self, we're calm, we're clear, we're compassionate. You know those moments?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're not always in self. But meditation helps us get to self. So meditation, like you said, helps us be more compassionate and more loving. So what compassionate mediation is a way of learning how to communicate. And it's often when people are in distress, because a lot of people come to me, some want a divorce, some want to stay together. But when they're coming for compassionate mediation, what I help them do is communicate from their highest self, to listen to each other with empathy, to learn how to acknowledge the other person's point of view and to really hear them. And then from that place, talk about what it would take if they did get divorced.
Well, Linda, I've known you for quite a while, and you've been an avid practitioner for all the time that I've known you, and I assume for years before we met. When somebody's coming to you and they've never had any experience of meditation or practice,
Right.
You know, how do you help someone who's like just starting out and yet experiencing the most emotionally difficult time in their life?
Well, we don't talk about meditation right away. Later on we do. So meditation is not a prerequisite at all. I have this board that I go to. I talk to them, and oftentimes I've got someone who wants a divorce and someone who doesn't.
Now, is this board, is it prearranged that
I wrote like in my handwriting. I almost brought it tonight. But it
I wish you
basically
did.
said self on it, and self is calm, clear, and compassionate. Then I've got 3 columns, those exiles, those managers, and those extreme parts. And those exiles, the sadness, the hurt, the vulnerability, we push that aside. We manage, nice, pleasing, caretaking, mean. Sometimes we manage by a pseudo-self, like we look like we're in self, but we're really not. We're in a part. And when those managers can't manage those exiles, we get extreme. So some people eat too much, drink too much, work too hard, go have an affair.
Well, and I would call that acting out,
Exactly.
where they push those things aside, the sadness, the
Right.
anger.
But when you're in self, you don't need to exile your feelings. You don't need to manage, and you don't need to get extreme. You really learn how to speak for your feelings, put down your walls, because a lot of people, when they come to see me, they've already built up walls. They see their partner through the walls of everything that happened, through the filters of what they did or what they think they'll do. And when you really look from a higher level of perception, which meditation helps you do, you can look down and say, we're doing the best we can.
So are people coming to you as a therapist, a mediator,
Yes.
an attorney?
Yeah, well, and a mediator. I don't practice, I am a licensed attorney, but I just do the mediation, and for meditation and groups. So it's been fun.
Yeah, and so let's say people may be going through a divorce and want to have a compassionate divorce. What kind of expectations are they coming to you with?
That they will be respectful, that they will be civil, that they will remember what they loved about each other in the first place, that they will keep their children's interests at the forefront, and even if they don't have their children's interest, they will look for a healing way to part, because I believe people come together for a reason and then they can part. But they don't have to part the same acrimonious way that everybody else has.
Yes.
So helping people do that, it's like an opportunity to heal as a family restructures.
Well, what I'd take away from this, if you're helping people find their self and calmness and peace and serenity in the most difficult time and period of their life, then everything after that
is a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they can't, because usually what happens is they come in armored, they come in angry or scared, and when you really can teach them a miracle of empathy, which is how to listen from a perspective of non-judgment, using I messages, and really hearing and understanding and feeling for the other person, then they can negotiate a difference. And a lot of times people that come to me thinking they want a divorce finally learn how to communicate and go back and create a new marriage.
That's wonderful. Now, in order for you to maintain your centeredness and peacefulness, you have to be practicing that compassionate meditation, and I assume some other methods or arts. How do you work on yourself so that you are in top form for your clients?
I reach out to mentors. I've done a lot of mentoring. I've had therapy when I need it. I have coaches. I have friends. I have great children. Got a wonderful family, an extended family, so I connect.
It strikes me that you're living the life that you're espousing and that what you want for your clients.
Thank you. It's taken me a long time, but I'm really closer to walking the talk finally.
Well,
thank you.
Congratulations.
Closer. Getting closer.
Now, can you explain to our audience what compassionate communication is?
Yes. Like I said, it's where you go back to the fact that probably as good as there's a cartoon that I saw. It's one person sitting in an empty convention hall, and the banner at the back of the convention hall says, Convention of Children from Functional Families. Right? There's only one person, because everybody's got some dysfunction. No matter how hard we try, even perfect families, when you have to be perfect, it's the human condition.
Yeah.
So if we don't tend to whatever wounds we picked up along the way, we carry that into our relationship. We pick somebody that we think is going to heal us, and when we realize they're not perfect, and Sam Keen has said that it's not about finding a perfect person, it's about learning how to love another imperfect person perfectly. So that's what I think we need to do. But we heal our wounds first. We realize that just because our mind is telling us something doesn't make it true, and we learn how to question our thoughts and pick the ones that are most healing. And then when you connect to your spiritual source, whether it's God, higher power, nature, true self, higher self, inner wise self, and then make a heart-to-heart connection. And sometimes you can do that just by taking a breath. Because as soon as we're triggered and our bodies go into automatic fight or flight mode, and we take a breath, we can kind of reset and reboot and go back into that place of love and compassion, even if it takes a moment, and then relate from there. And that makes it so different. Mm-hmm. Right?
I would
Have
agree.
you experienced that?
I do experience that. And, you know, I also think it's important to practice prevention. Let's say, you know, for a couple, you know, to meditate together pray together, so that you avoid a lot of disconnects and arguments, etc.
Right. And even if your partner's not willing to do this, but you're willing to learn, if one person is willing to learn it, they can bring what I'm calling a critical mass of self. And this self in parts is all internal family systems. I mentioned Deepak Chopra, but I want to mention Richard Schwartz. He's the founder of Internal Family Systems, and I've used it in my practice for 15 years. And
can you define? I've discussed internal family systems with previous guest, but
Great.
our current audience may not know what it is.
Great. Internal Family Systems was founded by Dick Schwartz, and he came up with the concept from speaking to his clients that at our core, we all have a healthy self that's calm, clear, compassionate, connected, curious, courageous, confident. I know I'll forget the other two, but a lot of C words that we'd like to be. And when we have things that happen to us as children, like I said, we exile them. We manage in a certain way. His word was firefighter, that we have firefighters at extreme. I stopped using firefighters after 9/11 when they became heroes, so I use extreme parts. But it's a way of doing psychotherapy, but it's also a way of communication. And if I could help do so, I think people should be taught it at childhood. You know, how to recognize when you're not being kind, and speak for the parts of you that are angry. Speak for the parts of you instead of from the parts.
Well, and what I'm hearing is it's within us.
It is.
And just like you said, it starts with loving ourselves.
Exactly.
And internal family systems is, again, it starts within ourselves. It's not the other person that we're pointing the finger at.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
usually the case, and that's usually the message. The message is usually, you have to do something different, you have to be different, you have to meet my expectations, versus, I'm feeling sad, this is what I want, this is what I need, and allowing the other person to listen without putting up their need to defend themselves. So you take off the filter that makes your partner wrong, and you kind of put a new one on and start a new relationship over and over again.
Well, again, I think it boils down to that communication.
Absolutely.
And the first communication is being able to understand what we want, that intrapersonal
Right.
communication, the communication is happening with ourselves,
Exactly.
and then to compassionately express that to someone else.
Right. And I sometimes talk about the 5 steps of getting what you want and need, and the first one is to know them.
Now, did you invent these 5 sets or discover? Okay.
Oh, yeah. They're an amalgam. I kind of think that I've taken a patchwork quilt from some of the best teachers, Deepak and David G. and David Simon, Dick Schwartz, Sark I'm studying with now. I've taken so many classes. I'm kind of a constant learner.
Well, I must say, it seems like you're in your prime of your life
I
now.
am.
Yeah,
I am.
And yet, supposedly, you're past your prime, but
Yeah,
I feel like it's
whole
like
new-
you're just hitting
getting
it.
started.
Yeah.
Just getting
Well,
started.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to interrupt
That's
you.
okay. The 5 steps, know what they are, which people usually forget because they're usually pleasing other people. Know you deserve it, which is part of healing that inner child piece. Learn to ask for it, which is not a demand. Be willing to receive it, which is hard for people to do when they're used to giving, and to be grateful. And gratitude is one of those other things like compassion.
Now, you said it's hard for people to receive. I think women, would you agree women have
Yes.
difficulty?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think that it's not just women, but it's men too. I think there's a thing called codependency, and the way I describe codependency is this continuum of caretaking, and we're all codependent on some level. We're all givers and caretakers of people we love. But where it becomes a problem is where taking care of other people's needs are more important than taking care of your own. So you are people-pleasing, you're perfectionist, you don't say no, you have trouble with boundaries. And you grow up giving, 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 and then someday you realize, well, what about me? And then instead of learning how to calmly and confidently ask for what you need, you start getting angry or blaming or judgmental, and that doesn't have
And
to
it
happen.
gets internalized. and-
Yes, and then externalized and projected onto your partner, and then they
yeah.
come see me.
Okay. Why is it desirable for a person to be in self?
Because when you're in your parts, the energy behind how you're communicating sounds angry, aggressive, victimized, pouty, judgmental. But when you're in self, you really come to a place of present moment witnessing awareness, where you can breathe into the moment, observe what's happening, and kindly and compassionately speak your truth with the other person able to listen.
Now, what happens, and I know this is going to happen,
Yeah.
when people speak their truth and all of a sudden people say, I don't want to hear it. I don't believe you. You're a fraud. You're a bigger fraud. You're a bigger phony. It's like people who speak the truth, they get persecuted.
Aha. Are we talking interpersonal relationships or talking something else?
Well, it could be within a family.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it could be somebody at work.
Right, and this compassionate communication works with children, with parents, with colleagues, but when you're coming, sometimes I tell people when you're in self, you can put up your little psychic umbrella, and you can recognize that just because somebody's coming at you in a way that looks aggressive, that they're really trying to manage their anxiety, and underneath there's a little boy or little girl that's really scared, and if you're not reacting and taking that button to your old wounds and can just be present, you can really find out what's happening underneath.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking of a situation
Yes.
in which I felt a little uncomfortable, and you came up to me and said one of the most nicest things ever. You said, "Jay, you have a habit of saying what are on other people's mind," and I felt like because I was able to express what I said, it was
Right.
at an Infinity meeting, that I might have made other people feel uncomfortable.
Oh, but they have a right to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the codependent piece. We can't.
But you were my savior in that situation.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't please everybody all the time. It's taken me a long time to accept that. But
Now, and by the way, you have a wonderful, wonderful website.
Thank you.
And I was amazed that you put it together.
every picture, every word, I did it from scratch.
Now, before the show, you mentioned something about Valentine's Day.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we started talking about love is all there is. So what I have done, because I love what I do so much, is that a lot of times I was doing a lot of repetitive teaching the same thing all day. So not repetitive, but just reaching a limited amount. So I've gone online, and last year I started offering programs and products online. So it's culminated this Valentine's Day is the Love Summit 2014, Igniting Passion, Connection, and Fun. And it's a 4-day free event, online, international. I've got 15 of the world's biggest relationship experts and love experts.
You came up with this
I
Love
put
Summit?
it all together. Thank you.
Are you familiar
Free.
with Leo Buscaglia?
Yes, of course, the hugging guy.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
also wrote the book, bestseller, Love, Living, Loving, and Learning.
Yes.
He had his PBS specials, which you can probably check out at a library.
Oh, he's great.
He would be very proud of you. It's
Thank
like
you
you're
so much.
channeling him.
Thank you. Well, we're
Yeah.
all channeling the same thing. When we're channeling love, we're channeling the oneness that is who we are when we're not burdened by our parts.
Well, he was a professor, I believe, at UCLA, and how he said he became a big star every year around Valentine's Day. And I certainly hope you get to pick up the baton. And so your goal is to
Reach as many people with a message of love. We've got Sark, we've got Ariel Ford, we've got David G. from the Chopra Center, Claire Diab, Deborah Poneman. There's many more. There's some surprises that are still coming. But we're having a 4-day event. Call in from anywhere in the world. It is free. Everybody gets a free gift from the speakers. And we're talking about succulent wild relationships, the soulmate secret, talking about how to be better parents, talking about healing from the past and being open to love, talking about how to bring love into your workplace and into your dharma and into your purpose in life. So
and you say you want to make it an annual event.
I do, yes.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get the success like Earth Day.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like pay it forward. Just tell people about it so they can tune in to anything that's relevant and enjoy themselves.
You've certainly created a wonderful body of work. Any interest in writing a book?
I've got 7 that are already in the works. It's just ADD, finish it. The one that's probably the closest is, compassionate mediation training and how to do it is certainly one that I'd like to do. But the one that's...
I'll look forward to those
Thank
interviews.
you. Hopefully this year. But the one that is Love Notes from a Yogi Baba.
Oh.
Because I'm a grandmother. So I'm a Baba and I'm a yogi.
Oh,
so,
instead of Bubby, it's a
yeah,
Baba.
it's a Baba. So
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, I notice your work also has higher consciousness.
Yes.
So explain what you mean by higher consciousness.
Well, it's not a hierarchy. It's not that somebody that meditates or feels that they're spiritual is better than somebody that doesn't. And I've got to say...
So it's not ego-driven
No, it's
or
not an ego-driven
competitive.
spirituality. Exactly, exactly.
My consciousness is higher than yours.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I've got to say that a lot of my personal tribe, my brother and a few others, think I'm way out there, very woo-woo. The wonderful thing about Infinity is that you can reach a group of people that resonate on the same discussion of things that you may not be able to talk to other people about. So, but it doesn't make it better or worse. So higher consciousness is part of what they teach at the Chopra Center. And it's that we have 7 states of consciousness, and very briefly, sleeping, we're a little conscious, we can hear the baby. Dreaming, we think we're conscious until we wake up. Waking, everybody walks around in waking. But when we start to meditate, we transcend that fight or flight reactivity that we have on a cellular level, and we bring a little restful alertness so we can bring more present moment awareness into our lives. As we meditate a little more, we get into what's called cosmic awareness, where you're feeling like you're in this world but not of this world. So you bring this piece back into your life. Divinity consciousness is that there's a God in everybody, and unity consciousness is it's all one. It's all God. It's all one source.
That's beautiful, and I've got to say, my first book or introduction to this way of life was the book, The Handbook to Higher Consciousness by Ken Keyes, I believe, or Keys. And then I learned 25, 30 years later, he was a quadriplegic.
Really?
Yeah, and so, and yet there was never mention in the book, but yet he was talking about living life with that higher consciousness, and you expressed it so well.
Thank you. And I think what happens with some people that can't meditate right away is that when they try to meditate and sit still, if they haven't healed their wounding from the past that's still being held in their body, then what happens is it starts to make them agitated and they can't sit quietly. So it's a combination of healing the wounds from your past, connecting to your spiritual source, and being present in witnessing, loving awareness.
Now, you mentioned sitting. Do people...
You don't have to sit.
It can be lying down.
Oh, do it however you're comfortable, the way we do it.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we just have under 2 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
Is there anything you want to touch on that we haven't discussed yet?
Well, let's see. Individual counseling. I do a lot of individual counseling. One of the programs that I'm teaching now online is called 7 Steps to More Love and Joy, that I'm going to be offering this fall. I've got some free gifts for your compassionate communication. There's the Believe in Yourself, where I talk about the self in parts in meditation and breathing and gratitude. I've got another free book that I'm offering on the 3 keys to a wonderful relationship, creating peace, partnership, and passion. So there's a lot of freebies out there that I just like to share.
It's kind of like the way Wayne Dyer did. He would just give books away, and he said it would come back to me, and he became probably the most successful.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I'm putting it out there for you.
Thank you, and for you too.
Well, thank you. And I also want to touch on empathy, because I believe I read that you believe empathy can produce miracles?
Miracle of empathy. The miracle, and when I do a meditation, actually, they don't come in my office thinking I'm going to do it.
Is compassion and empathy same thing or similar?
Similar, but I think empathy is really when you're working at putting your parts aside, listening from that higher self, hearing that other person's feelings and understanding them, and really letting them know you're sorry if you've hurt them, you're sorry if that's their experience, and you love them and want to create something new. So there's a whole little process that I teach that's very healing.
Now, we've got less than a minute,
okay.
But most people say, I don't have enough time to put the work into myself, I don't have enough time to meditate. What do you say to that? I say
do it 2 minutes, and you've done it. Do 2 minutes about yoga, breathing, and if you don't do it, love yourself anyway. It's those parts that should on us that get us into trouble, so just love who you are. Okay, got to wrap it up. For more information about Linda, Infinity Foundation, InnerQuest Talk Show, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune. Thank you so much, Jay.
It's been a wonderful pleasure.
Thank you. Me too.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.